Enjoy your freedom, Elena. Never return. Those were the last words Harrison James sent to his wife after she texted him that their marriage drained her. A message meant to shock him, but she had no idea he had already uncovered every secret she had been hiding. What happened next will make you question everything you think you know about trust, betrayal, and revenge. Viewers, have you ever trusted someone so completely that their betrayal felt like a punch to your heart? How would you react if the person you loved was already planning their escape? Subscribe, like, comment, and watch till the ending. Share this interesting story, family and friends. My name is Harrison James, 34 years old, senior staff engineer at a fast-growing tech company in downtown Miami. I build things that work, systems that don't crash, code that runs smooth, architecture that breathes logic. My whole life has been about structure, order, predictability. But when it came to love, I forgot that even perfect systems fail when human emotion enters the equation. I still remember that Thursday night, humid, quiet, the city pulsing with distant music from the clubs on Betrayal. I'd come home late after debugging a client's cloud server issue, the kind of task that makes you lose all sense of time. My shirt clung to me from the Miami heat, and all I wanted was a cold shower, a little bourbon, and the sound of Elena's voice. But when I stepped into our apartment, there was only silence. That kind of silence that has weight, not peace but tension. Elena was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She didn't look up. I asked if she'd eaten. She just said, "I'm not hungry," without lifting her eyes. That's when I knew something had shifted, though I couldn't put words to it then. 4 months we'd been drifting, not fighting, just existing beside each other. You'd think you'd notice love dying, but it fades quietly, like a light dimming in another room. After a brief shower, I sat on the balcony, watching the skyline flicker, glass towers catching the moonlight, waves brushing against the shore in the distance. I thought about how Elena and I used to come up here after dinner, barefoot, with cheap wine and big dreams. She'd talk about opening a skincare line someday, how she wanted something that's mine. I used to think that was just ambition. I didn't know it was foreshadowing. My phone buzzed beside me. I almost ignored it, probably a Slack notification from work. But the name froze me. Elena. Her message came in 3 parts, like it took her effort to send each one. I need to remember what freedom feels like. This marriage drains me. Please don't call. At first I thought it was a joke. Elena had a dramatic sense of humor, always exaggerating when she wanted attention. But something about the tone, the emptiness of it, told me she meant every word. I stared at the screen for a full minute. My pulse slowed instead of quickened. You'd expect rage or fear, but all I felt was exhaustion. I typed without thinking. Enjoy, and never return. And I hit send. For a moment, the city around me seemed to pause. I could hear the hum of traffic far below, a siren in the distance, the faint clink of glass from a neighbor's balcony. I waited for her to reply, half expecting the sound of the door unlocking behind me, her laugh cutting through the tension. But nothing came. No reply. Just silence. The kind that settles when something has truly ended. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake listening to the sound of the ceiling fan, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Part of me wondered if this was my fault, if my obsession with work had finally pushed her away. But a smaller, colder voice inside whispered, "No, Harrison." She left long before she sent that text. And in that moment, I didn't realize it yet, but that text wasn't her escape. It was the start of my education, in betrayal, silence, and revenge. By the time the first light of morning spilled into the room, I knew something irreversible had happened. The air in our apartment felt wrong, light but hollow. I reached for her side of the bed, half expecting warmth, half hoping she'd be in the kitchen making coffee like nothing happened. But her pillow was cold. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and called out, "Elena?" Nothing. Just the soft hum of the AC and the buzz of my phone alarm. I got up, walked into the living room, and froze. The closet doors were open. Her clothes were gone, all of them. Dresses, jackets, even the old denim jacket she'd bought on our first trip to Tampa. The vanity was stripped clean, not even a hairbrush left behind. The faint scent of her perfume, lavender and something citrus, lingered in the air like a ghost. I opened drawers, searched the bathroom, the balcony, the storage closet, as if maybe she'd just changed her mind and decided to hide instead of leave. Stupid, I know. But denial makes you do strange things. Then I saw it, the wedding ring box on the bed. Empty. She hadn't even bothered to leave the ring. That detail hit me harder than the message. It wasn't impulsive. It was planned. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, elbows on my knees, staring at nothing. I wasn't angry yet. Just numb. In tech, when a system fails, you check the logs, you look for what went wrong and when. I started doing the same with my marriage. Tracing moments, conversations, silences, looking for the first sign of failure. There it was, 3 weeks earlier, a random Saturday. She told me she was meeting her cousin for brunch. I remember her perfume that morning, too strong, like she was trying too hard. She didn't come back till nightfall, smiling, phone glued to her hand. I joked, "Did your cousin kidnap you?" She just laughed and kissed my cheek. That was the last time she kissed me. I went to the trash bin and pulled out the last garbage bag. Inside were old bills, food wrappers, and a crumpled receipt. The paper was damp from something spilled on it, but the logo was clear, a boutique hotel in Coral Gables. 2-night stay. 2 guests. I felt my throat tighten. I sat back down on the bed, the receipt shaking in my hand. "No," I whispered, as if saying it aloud could undo what it meant. But the evidence was too clear. She hadn't just left because she was drained. She left because she'd already found someone else to recharge her. My phone buzzed again. Marcus, my colleague and old college roommate, calling to remind me about a product meeting. I almost ignored it, but then an idea sparked. Marcus knew things. He always did. He was the quiet type who noticed details. And lately he'd been oddly careful when mentioning Elena's name. I answered, forcing calm into my voice. "Marcus, can we talk later?" Something came up. There was a pause on the line. Then he said softly, "You okay, man?" I hesitated. She left. Silence. Then his voice dropped an octave. "I think you should sit down when we talk." That was the moment I knew my world was about to crack open. Not from her leaving, but from what Marcus was about to reveal. Marcus suggested we meet that evening at a small bar near South Beach. One of those open-air spots with dim lights and Latin jazz playing in the background. I remember thinking how strange it felt to be sitting under the same palm trees Elena and I used to walk past on Friday nights, back when life still made sense. Marcus was already there when I arrived, nursing a bottle of beer, his face unusually tense. We'd known each other for nearly a decade, from coding boot camps to sleepless product launches, and I could tell from the way he avoided my eyes that he wasn't bringing good news. I sat down, forced a smile. "You said I should sit down for this. You're scaring me, man." He sighed, rubbed his forehead. "Harrison, I didn't know how to tell you. But you deserve to know the truth. Elena's been seeing someone." The words hit harder than I expected. Not because I hadn't suspected it, but because hearing them out loud made it real. I took a slow breath. "Who?" He hesitated. "A guy named Leo. Works at her gym. Trainer, I think. She's been posting with him, private account, but my girlfriend follows her. She showed me a story once. Elena and this dude in his car, laughing like they were on vacation." I closed my eyes for a moment. The receipt from the hotel flashed in my mind like a slideshow of humiliation. "How long?" "Since around your birthday, I think." I didn't want to believe it, but she's been pulling away for months. "You must have noticed." I noticed. The missed calls, the sudden weekend self-care retreats, the perfume that lingered after supposed gym sessions. But I kept convincing myself it was stress, marriage adjusting, not betrayal blooming. Marcus leaned forward, lowering his voice. "She told people you were controlling. That she felt trapped. Said you didn't let her breathe." I laughed, bitter and quiet. "Controlling?" "I spent half my nights in the office. She had more freedom than I did." He nodded. "I know, bro. But that's what she told people." "I'm sorry." For a while we just sat there, the sound of waves filling the silence between us. I stared at my beer, thinking about how perception becomes truth once it's repeated enough. In her story she was the victim. And I was the villain. The flashback hit me, our second month of marriage. She'd wanted to post everything online. Dinners, flowers, gifts. When I asked her to keep some things private, she said, "You don't want people to know you're proud of me?" That night, she cried for hours, accusing me of wanting to hide her. Maybe that was the first spark of resentment, the one that grew into this fire. Marcus placed a hand on my shoulder. "I didn't tell you this to hurt you. I just thought, you should know what you're dealing with." I nodded, jaw tight. "No, you did the right thing. I need to see this clearly now." When I left the bar, the Miami air felt heavier, hotter, like it was pressing against my chest. I walked past a couple laughing by the sidewalk, their arms around each other. For a split second I saw myself and Elena in them, the way we used to be. Then my phone buzzed with a push notification. Instagram. Someone had tagged me in an old wedding photo. Elena's smile stared back at me, bright, unbothered, eternal. I stared at that image for a long moment before whispering, "You didn't lose interest, did you, Elena? You just found someone else to make you feel alive." And for the first time since she left, I felt something colder than heartbreak begin to grow inside me, clarity. Please subscribe for more interesting story. Miami looked different at night when you were looking for ghosts. Every streetlight felt like an interrogation lamp. Every passing car carried a maybe. 4 days, I lived between work and sleepless hours scrolling through traces of her digital life. Checking her old accounts, searching for patterns, looking for something that would tell me why. I told myself I wasn't stalking her. I was just verifying the truth. Engineers are like that. We don't trust conclusions without data. The data came from something small. One night, as I sat staring at our old Netflix account, I noticed a device still streaming under her name, an unfamiliar IP address in Edgewater, Miami. A fancy neighborhood, known for its waterfront apartments and rooftop bars. The timestamp matched the evenings she used to claim she was at yoga. I checked it every night for a week. Same location. Same time frame. That's when I knew I needed to see it for myself. It was a Friday, the kind of humid Miami night when the air sticks to your skin and the city buzzes like it's alive. I parked 2 blocks away from the address that the IP traced back to, a sleek building with glass balconies and soft, blue ambient lighting. I sat in my car, engine off, eyes locked on the lobby entrance. Around 9:43 p.m. she appeared. Elena. She was wearing one of her floral sundresses, the yellow one I'd bought her on our honeymoon in Aruba. She looked radiant. Happy. She wasn't drained. She wasn't lost. She was glowing. And she wasn't alone. A tall man with broad shoulders, Leo the gym trainer, came out behind her, laughing, one hand at the small of her back. They looked like a couple walking out of a dream. He kissed her on the cheek. She giggled, brushed his arm playfully, and leaned in to whisper something. For a moment I couldn't breathe. I watched through the windshield, my pulse pounding in my ears. This wasn't just betrayal, it was performance. Every smile, every soft gesture, every laugh that used to be mine was now his. I turned off my phone screen and just sat there, my fingers gripping the steering wheel. The temptation to step out, to walk right up to them and confront the farce, burned through me. But something colder took over instead. A calm that felt more dangerous than rage. I raised my phone and snapped a photo, her laughing in his arms under the soft light of the lobby entrance. A perfect picture of freedom. Then I started the car and drove away. Halfway home, memories began replaying. The night she made me cancel a dinner because she was too tired. The weekend she disappeared claiming she needed space to think. The sudden obsession with privacy. It all aligned now, perfectly, painfully. I pulled over near the marina, cut the engine, and stared at the ocean. 2 years ago, Elena told me her ex had cheated on her, said she'd never recover from that kind of betrayal. I believed her. I spent months proving to her I was different, trustworthy, stable. I didn't know that sometimes the people most afraid of being hurt are the ones already holding the knife. I looked down at the photo I'd taken. Her face was half-lit, smiling, alive. Mine, reflected in the phone screen, was the opposite, dark, still, emptied out. That night I made a silent promise. I wouldn't confront her. I wouldn't scream or beg or threaten. No, I would do what I do best. I would plan. Revenge doesn't always start with rage. Sometimes it begins with silence, the kind that hums between your ribs until it becomes focus. For the next week, I went to work as if nothing had happened. I handled code reviews, managed my team, smiled through product meetings. But every time someone's laughter echoed in the hallway, I thought of hers, that light, careless laugh under the streetlights outside Leo's apartment. That sound became my fuel. At Novalink Technologies, where I'd been a senior systems engineer for nearly 6 years, precision was everything. Our lives revolved around data, traceability, and control, 3 things I'd lost in my marriage. But when you strip away emotion, what's left is a terrifying kind of efficiency. I began collecting evidence the way I would debug a corrupted system. Emails. Financial transfers. GPS logs from our shared car app. Every inconsistency told a story. Every lie had a timestamp. I didn't do it for proof. I did it to regain my balance, to understand where the truth began to rot. That's when I found something that made my chest tighten. A payment to a storage unit registered in Elena's name, dated 3 weeks before her freedom text. I hadn't known about any storage unit. Curious, I drove there after work one evening. The clerk didn't ask many questions, just scanned her name and handed me a temporary access code. The unit smelled faintly of lavender and cardboard dust. Inside were boxes labeled wedding, books, and miscellaneous. But the last one stopped me cold. A small metal case labeled Harrison. I opened it carefully. Inside were photos, letters, a few of my old notebooks from college, and a handwritten note that read, If he ever leaves, remember who you are. I didn't understand what that meant at first, but then I noticed something tucked underneath. A second letter, folded carefully, written in her handwriting but addressed to someone else. Leo, he's starting to notice. I'll find a way out soon. I promise. That was dated 2 months before she texted me about needing freedom. My throat went dry. The whole thing, her emotional exhaustion, the staged fights, her distance, it wasn't spontaneous. It was a campaign. A calculated retreat dressed as pain. I closed the box, locked it back, and walked out into the fading Miami sun. I didn't cry. Didn't even feel anger. Just a strange, eerie calm. Because now the equation was complete. At home, I sat on the balcony overlooking the skyline. I could see the reflection of the city lights on my glass door, fractured, colorful, distant. That's when I realized, she wasn't just trying to leave me. She was trying to erase me. I took a sip of whiskey, opened my laptop, and began typing. A new program. One I'd write purely for myself. A small piece of automation that would track patterns in social media data, pull connections, build maps. By the time the first lines of code compiled, I whispered something to the dark horizon. You wanted freedom, Elena. Let's see what it estis. Subscribe for more stories as you can. Continue every night after that, I worked on my secret project. A small piece of software that could quietly pull data from public APIs, link metadata from photos, and track the digital trails most people forget exist. I called it Erebus. The name came from Greek mythology, the personification of darkness. Fitting, I thought. By day, I remained the dependable senior engineer, the steady voice on conference calls, the mentor in stand-ups. But by night, Erebus was learning. Every photo Elena posted, every story Leo tagged, every timestamp, it all flowed into the system. I wasn't spying, not really. I was observing. Building a map of truth. Within days, patterns emerged. Same gym check-ins, same cafe selfies, same business trips, that matched his schedule. But there was something else, small inconsistencies in her finances. Transfers between her account and one under her cousin's name. I followed that thread and found she was funneling money from our joint savings, little by little, to an account I never knew existed. For what? I couldn't tell. But I was done reacting. Now I was scripting. Weeks passed. One evening I saw a new entry in Erebus feed, a tagged location, the Solis Hotel, an upscale downtown spot. The timestamp? 2 nights earlier, same time she'd texted me saying she was visiting her sick aunt. That's when I decided to move from observation to exposure. I booked a suite at the same hotel under a pseudonym and left a note with the front desk for her. Room 407. 8 p.m. Urgent business. No signature. Just curiosity bait. If she was as anxious about her double life as I suspected, she wouldn't ignore it. At exactly 8:14 p.m., I watched from the corner of the bar as she entered, nervous, scanning the lobby, pretending not to be. She wore a fitted white dress, hair pulled back. She looked like the woman I once fell for, only harder now. Sharper. When she didn't find anyone, she texted rapidly, probably Leo. Then she stormed out. But not before a manager stopped her at the door, handing her an envelope. Inside. The photos I'd taken. Her and Leo outside his building. Her laughing in that yellow dress. At the bottom, one line. Freedom has a mirror. Look closely. I left before she returned, watching through the tinted glass as confusion twisted across her face. For the first time in months, she looked trapped. Erebus kept watching. 3 days later, the tremors began. Elena called me out of nowhere, voice trembling, a strange mix of guilt and defiance. Did you do this? She demanded. Do what? I said calmly. The emails, Harrison. Someone sent Leo's wife pictures of us. She's threatening to ruin his career. There it was. The missing puzzle piece. Leo wasn't single. I'm sorry to hear that, I said almost sincerely. Must be hard losing your privacy. You're sick, she snapped, her voice cracking. You've been spying on me. I didn't respond. Silence is a weapon, and she didn't know how to fight it. The next morning, I found out Leo had been suspended from his gym for ethical misconduct. The gossip spread fast, clients whispering, colleagues speculating. Erebus hadn't sent those photos to Leo's wife. But once they existed online in hidden metadata, all it took was a quiet nudge, an anonymous tip from a concerned friend. By the end of the week, Elena's perfect world was fracturing. She called again, crying this time. I lost my apartment, Harrison. Leo's gone. Everything's falling apart. I stayed quiet for a moment, then said softly, maybe this is what freedom feels like. She hung up. That night I sat in my car outside her old place. Through the window I saw her sitting alone, clutching her phone, surrounded by packed boxes. I remembered her laughter, her warmth, her early morning coffee dances. And for a fleeting second I felt something like pity. But pity dies quickly when you remember betrayal. The unraveling didn't stop there. When someone builds their freedom on lies, the structure collapses from within. A few days later, my manager at Novalink called me in. "Good work on that diagnostic tool, Harrison," he said. "We're considering integrating your system into our internal threat analysis. You think you can adapt it for enterprise use?" He was talking about Erebus. I'd repurposed parts of it, stripped of personal data, into a prototype for company security. What began as vengeance had become innovation. Irony has a dark sense of humor. Meanwhile, Elena's cousin, the one tied to her secret account, texted me out of the blue. "I don't know what's happening between you two, but please tell her to stop using my name. Banks are asking questions." That was my confirmation. She'd been planning a quiet exit long before her freedom message. Maybe she wanted to fund her life with Leo, or just vanish from everything we'd built together. By then though, I didn't care why. The story had written itself. Still, something in me needed closure. Not vengeance, truth. So I met her one last time. We sat at a quiet cafe near Biscayne Boulevard. She looked smaller now, her confidence stripped away. "I never meant to hurt you," she said. "I just lost myself." I leaned back, studying her face. "No, Elena. You didn't lose yourself. You sold yourself a story, that you were trapped. That I was the cage. And once you believed it, betrayal became freedom." Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't move. I just watched as the silence filled the air between us, thick, final, absolute. Months passed. Miami returned to its normal rhythm. Sunlight on glass towers, waves against the pier, neon reflections on wet streets. To anyone watching, I was thriving. Promotions, quiet confidence, peace. But inside I was different. Not broken, not bitter, just aware. Sometimes I'd still see her name pop up online. A new job in another city. A smiling photo with friends, captioned "starting over." Freedom had a new face. I didn't hate her for it anymore. People break in strange directions. She just happened to break toward betrayal. One evening Marcus came over with beers. "You never told me what really happened," he said. "There's not much to tell," I replied. "She left. I learned." He nodded slowly. "You good?" I smiled faintly. "Better than I thought." We sat there watching the skyline, the reflection of lights flickering like old memories. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel the need to check Erebus or revisit the past. I'd outgrown it. Still, somewhere deep down, I knew Erebus was still running quietly in the background. A silent observer, collecting fragments of human nature. Maybe one day I'd shut it down. But not yet. Not while the world still whispered lies. A year later, I got an email from an unknown sender. The subject line, "Do you still believe in freedom?" Attached was a single photo, Elena standing beside a man I didn't recognize. Older. Wealthy looking. They were smiling at what looked like an engagement party. No words, no signature. Just the image. I stared at it for a long time, then closed the laptop. The ocean outside my balcony shimmered under the moonlight, endless, quiet, indifferent. For the first time since she left, I felt peace. Not triumph, not bitterness, just peace. Because I finally understood. You can't avenge someone who was never yours to begin with. I deleted the photo, shut down Erebus, and poured myself a final drink. "Enjoy and never return," I whispered, this time not in anger but in release. The screen went dark. The city hummed below. And in the distance the tide came in, washing everything sea. Lean, subscribe, like, comment and share for more interesting stories.